10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Blast off. How y'all doing today? Good. We want to welcome you guys to Covenant Baptist Church. We're excited that you're here. If you're a first-time guest, thanks for coming and checking us out. If you're a many-time guest, thanks for coming again. We're going to get started here. So why don't you guys bow with me? We're going to pray. God, we thank you for today. Thank you for the opportunity to come to your house and to worship you, Jesus. I just pray that we can do that today, God, that we can put everything aside that went on this week, God, and just focus on you and focus on what you want us to get out of today, God. I pray for those that don't know Jesus yet that they would, you just draw them closer, God. And just thank you for loving us and taking care of us. In Jesus' name, amen. Please take a minute and greet those around you.
Children, go ahead and come on up for the children's message, and adults, you can be seated. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Your dad already tried to take that from me. Good morning. Good morning. How are you all doing? Good. Hey, has anybody ever seen one of these besides Carson? This is like the precursor to a Game Boy or a DS. The graphics are awesome, though. If you like little red, like LED lights, isn't that cool? Yeah. Listen to the music even. Oh, that's good. And when the batteries get lower, it has some vibrato to that music. Cool. It is old school. That game, wow, it's pushing, what do you think, 30, 35 years old? Yeah. This is the second edition. The first edition wasn't quite this complex. But you know what? Things change, don't they? Games certainly have changed. Yeah, you have 3D graphics on your Nintendos and Game Boys, and they're amazing. I mean, they're like real life on a little screen. Lots of things change, like the weather changes, doesn't it? Yeah. Like it's going to be sunny today and nice, and then we're going to have another blizzard, and we didn't have a blizzard all winter, and then we have 2 in a row. Weather changes, and then winter gives way to what? Spring, and then spring to summer, and summer to, and then we're right back to winter. Man, so seasons change. People change too. If I suddenly was gone for 5 years and I came back to see you guys, you wouldn't look anything like this. You're going to look more like me. No. Oh, you mean I'm going to lose all my hair and gain like 300 pounds? Yes, exactly. That's what's going to happen. No. But people change. Lots of things change. You know what? God doesn't change. You know why God doesn't change? He's always been just like He is today. And does anybody know why God doesn't change? Why doesn't He change?
He doesn't age.
He doesn't age because He's eternal.
He's the same.
He's the same, but how come He doesn't change?
Why? Because He's always there.
He's what? He never sins. That's right. He's perfect. If something's perfect, it can't change because it's as good as it can possibly get. And the cool thing is that God doesn't get worse either. The Bible says in Hebrews 13:8, he said, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So we're going to change. And sometimes we're going to behave well. Sometimes we're not going to behave so well. But He's going to stay the same. And He's going to love you the same today as He always has and He always will. You can know that God is never, ever going to change. So if He loves you today, He's going to love you forever. And if He's faithful today, He'll be faithful forever. If He gives you grace today, He's going to give you grace forever. That's the kind of God He is. He's never been different than He is today, and He never, ever will be. And I think that is amazing in a world where everything changes so much, just like this football game has. All right? Hey, I want to pray for you that you know that you can count on God. He's never going to back out. Let's pray. God, thank you for being the same constant, perfect God, and for loving us perfectly. Your love for us never changes. It's never going to change. It's never going to get less than it is today because it's perfect today. And I pray that these kids could grow up knowing that they can bank on your love, that they can count on it. They never have to wake up and wonder if you're going to love them today. They never have to go through a failure and wonder if you love them the same because you do. You're always, always going to be the same. It's never boring because you're amazing, God. There's so much to you that we could never, ever understand you or figure you out in 1,000 lifetimes, but we get to enjoy you for eternity. And God, I thank you for that. May these kids grow up with that security. In Jesus' great name we pray. Amen. Thank you, guys.
Yes, He does never, ever stop loving us and never lets go of us. Let's stand and sing to Him that He does never let go of us. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, your perfect love is casting out fear. And even when I'm caught in the middle of the storms of this life, I won't turn back, I know you are near. And I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. And if my God is with me, whom then shall I fear? Whom then shall I fear? Oh no, you never let go through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord, you never let go of me. I can see a light that is coming for the heart that holds on. A glorious light beyond all compare. And there will be an end to these troubles, but until that day comes, we'll live to know you here on the earth. And I will fear no evil, for my God is with me. And if my God is with me, whom then shall I fear? Whom then shall I fear? Oh no, you never let go through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go in every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord, you never let go of me. Keep on running and you never let go. Oh, singing, no, no, never let go through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go in every high and light that is coming for the heart that holds on. There will be an end to these troubles, but until that day comes, still I will praise you, still I will praise you. See a light that is coming for the heart that holds on. And there will be an end to these troubles, but until that day comes, still I will praise you, still I will praise you. Oh no, you never let go through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go of every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord, you never let go of me. Oh no, you never let go through the calm and through the storm. Oh no, you never let go of every high and every low. Oh no, you never let go, Lord, you never let go of me. Lord, you never let go of me. And peace like a river attendeth my way. When sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well
It is well
with my soul.
with my soul.
It is well, it is well with my soul.
Though Satan should buffet, though trials shall come, let this blessed assurance control that Christ has regarded my helpless estate
And have
shed his own blood for my soul. It is well with my soul.
with my soul.
It is well, it is well with my soul.
My sin, oh, the bliss of this glorious thought. My sin, not in part, but the whole. shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul.
It is well with my soul.
It is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.
There's a peace I've come to know. Though my heart and flesh may fail, there's an anchor for my soul. I can say it is well. Jesus has overcome, and the grave is overwhelmed. The victory is won. He is risen from the dead, and I will rise when He calls my name. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise on eagle's wings before my God. Fall on my knees and rise. I will rise.
There's a day that's drawing near when this darkness breaks to light and the shadows disappear, and my faith shall be my eyes. Jesus has overcome, and the grave is overwhelmed. The victory is won. He is risen from the dead, and I will rise when He calls my name. No more sorrow, no more pain. I will rise Thank you for worshiping. You can be seated. Okay, so how y'all doing this morning? Good. That wasn't very many of you. How y'all doing? Good. All right. Well, I'm going to do a song that by that I mean we, all of us together. I introduced them to a song that I'd heard since I was like 10, and over the course of a week they learned it, and that was really cool. It's just a song about God being there to help guide us and kind of hem us in and show us which way He wants us to go as long as we're open to it. So, just here it is. When I stand up for the right in the hard day of the fight, there's a hand I can feel leading me. And when I call both night and day, Lord, give me strength to always say, there's a hand, a guiding hand, keeps on leading me. Oh, there's a hand I can feel leading me on to glory every step on the way, leading me. Now when I do the best I can with a broken heart and these trembling hands, let your hand, Lord, your guiding hand, keep on leading me. Now when I stand on Jordan shore, I'm going on to fight no more. There's a hand I can feel leading me. Oh, yes, when the water, it opens wide, and I stand and look at the other side. Lord, let your hand, your guiding hand, keep on leading me. Oh, there's a hand I can feel leading me on to glory every step on the way, leading me. Now when I do the best I can with a broken heart, these trembling hands, there's a hand, a guiding hand, keeps on leading me. I can feel leading me on to glory every step on the way, leading me. Now when I do the best I can with a broken heart, these trembling hands, let your hand, Lord, your guiding hand, keep on leading me.
That's cool. I love it. I do. Hey, you already got me on. That's not fair. But then you heard my authentic, I love it. Oh, awesome. Don't you love the diversity? Renita, one of the things, I'm going to say a lot of nice things about you today before the day's over, but I just appreciate you seeing who people are and bringing that talent out, and you've done a good job there. Amazing. I appreciate you a lot. I hate the fact that this is your last day, and I'm just going to say that once so that I don't get emotional, because I'm not. I always get mad at her when she starts crying in my office. I say, stop that. And I'm really right now trying to get my notes in order, so y'all just hang with me. I got 5 pages with no page numbers. That is really that's not smart when you're trying to do this organized. Tom, don't laugh out loud. Just quiet, polite chuckle. All right? Front row people, quiet, polite chuckles. That's what we get. That's if you're AJ, you sit in the back, because, there you go, because we can hear him whether he's out on 37th Street or in here. All right. Man, we're talking about neighbors, and what a journey this is going to be. I really think God's doing something awesome. I know He is. I'm convinced of it. And I was thinking about neighbors that I've had, and in the first service I was talking about some of the more eccentric or powerful memories I've had of neighbors. Everything from, I had a neighbor that once shot my dog, not my favorite neighbor. Confronted him about that. Found out he was a police officer with a black belt. I'm glad I didn't kick down his trailer door because his wife was inside with a gun. And I would have got beat up and shot that day. That wouldn't have been a good day. I loved my dog, but not that much. Had neighbors whose parents, when I was growing up, the neighbor next door to me, his parents said, hey, if they ever pick on you, just pick up a 2x4 and hit them in the head. Now, I had a neighbor like that. I had a neighbor, my dad was an ornithologist, so he had his PhD in studying animals and birds, ornithology, study of birds, so he knew and loved birds. I grew up from a little kid knowing that I could shoot, sparrows and starlings were the only non-native species to the United States that you were legal to shoot. You can't shoot cardinals and blue jays and robins. Those are illegal. I knew that. And you certainly can't shoot owls, so it was much to my father's. It was a gasp when my neighbor brought home 2 barn owls he had shot and put them in the driveway. He's like, my dad, he would have been upset about a lot of things, but he was very upset about that. We had neighbors that, took things out of our house. We had neighbors, and we had some great neighbors, too, over the years. And I started thinking about all these people, and then I started thinking, what kind of neighbor have I been? What kind of neighbor have I been? Certainly there are stories going on of when I hadn't been a good neighbor, or maybe hopefully when I have been a good neighbor. This plan, God's plan for leading us into this journey of making disciples and not just being a church that's a spiritual country club, this plan is so profoundly simple that I think we overlook it. And for some reason we think God's plans to do great things have to be huge and complicated and diverse and require lots of money and organization, strategic thinking and manpower. It's hard to think that God would have this major, massive plan and say, we're going to carry this out by being good neighbors. This is how we're going to do it. You go love your neighbor like you love yourself. See, the mission of moving people into right relationship with God, that mission of leading people to become disciples who make disciples, that mission is massive in scope. It's massive in significance, but the plan God gave us for carrying out is incredibly, incredibly simple. So the problem for carrying out the plan didn't have anything to do with how hard the plan is. It doesn't have anything to do with how complicated it is. There's no financial barriers. There's no people barriers. There's no strategic initiative barriers. There's nothing. It's go love your neighbor like you would love yourself. That's the plan. But there are 2 major roadblocks that if we don't honestly deal with these roadblocks, if we don't do something significant to get them out of the way, they will stall us where we've been stalled probably most of our lives in terms of truly effectively making disciples. The first one was time. We dealt with the fact of time, that most of us live with no margins in our time. So we don't have time because we haven't made time to get to know our neighbors. So as it is, most of us are maxed out. Most of us don't have, time that we're twiddling our thumbs and saying, I could go make friends with my neighbor, but I don't choose to. Most of us are saying, when would I do it? So we have to make time. We have to deal with that. We dealt with that a little bit by asking you to do kind of a technology timesheet of how you use technology for recreational use between the hours of 5 and 9 in the evenings, because that's when most of us would connect with our neighbors. If you go over to your neighbor at 10 o'clock at night, it's not going to be a good start to the friendship, okay? So we said between 5 and 9. If you did fill those out and you want to give it to us, put it on the table back there on the way out. We'd love to see that. And if you didn't remember today, you can bring it back next week. And I hope our life groups are hitting hard on the discussion of how we need to free up time, how we need to deal with time as a roadblock. But the second roadblock that we're dealing with is just as massive. It presents just as much of a problem as time does. It's just as common. It's the roadblock of fear. And perhaps the most famous quote ever on fear by President Roosevelt said, "There's nothing to fear. We have nothing to fear but fear itself." First you think about, okay, what does he mean? And then you're thinking about, all right, you know what? No enemy, no obstacle will stop a determined people or person if they continue to press on through fear. The reason we fear fear itself is it often paralyzes us from even trying. So if you're paralyzed from even trying, if you never take a step forward, if you never even try, then you've failed at the outset, right? You've never gone anywhere. And as most of us would know, that most of the great leaders that have ever come about have failed massively. What was the story about Michael Jordan, one of the greatest NBA players to ever play the game of basketball? It was cut from his, do you know this? As a sophomore, didn't make the basketball team. Okay? Yeah, they're still talking about Jordan as the icon of basketball. Cut. But he quit. He said, man, I'm just a failure. I'm not going to try. I don't like that anymore. He pressed on. He pressed on and pressed on. The only thing we really do have to fear is fear itself. It is a massive roadblock in the effort to make disciples, but it goes beyond that. It certainly can paralyze you as a husband, as a wife, as a parent, as a student, as a boss, as an employee, and certainly as a friend. So I'm going to ask you the question, how has fear hindered your ability to truly be a good neighbor? Fear has been a roadblock ever since man fell into sin. Do you remember? Do you remember what Adam said after he and Eve sinned and he heard God walking towards them in the garden, and God calls out for Adam and he says, "Where are you?" So that Adam will have to disclose the fact that he had hidden, and he says, "I was afraid." Fear has always created separation between man and God, and it's a result of sin, and it certainly impedes relationships with people. Before we read the passage that we're going to read today, I'm going to catch you up quickly on the setting that takes place in Israel. The nation of Israel, God's chosen people at this point, had been freed from Egypt. They were slaves in Egypt, and Moses was raised up in the 10 plagues, and he leads them out of Egypt into the desert, and he's leading them toward Canaan, which is the land God promised to give Israel. And they arrive on Canaan's, on the territory, on the brink of taking territory on the, what's that called, the border. And they send 12 spies into Canaan to see what's in there, to see what's a recon mission. And they come back. 10 out of the 12 spies said, yes, it is a great land, but there is no way that we're ever going to take this land. The walls are built high, the cities are well fortified, the armies are well trained, and not only that, there are giants that live in this land. We can't do it. We have been duped. We should have stayed in Egypt, and the whole town, the whole nation of Israel is upset. Except for Joshua and Caleb. And Joshua and Caleb stand forward and say, we can, we must, and we should. Well, the 10 overrule the 2, and the nation of Israel rebels. And God says this. God says, we're going to take the nation of Canaan, that is the promised land, but none of the people in this present group are going to see it, except for Joshua and Caleb, and Moses didn't even get to go. So he sends them to the desert to wander for 40 years until that generation of people dies off. And the generation with the spirit of Joshua and Caleb, that people is raised up. And God brings them back to the very same point 40 years later. And that's where we pick up the story where Joshua and Caleb are standing on the brink of taking the promised land. Moses is about to hand over the reins to Joshua, and he is giving him some incredible advice. He is telling him what he needs to do. So I want you to turn in your Bibles to Deuteronomy chapter 31. And if you don't have your Bible with you today, we'd love for you to bring it on a regular basis. But if you don't have it today, there's some Bibles sitting over on the side there. You can borrow those. And we have the scripture on the screen, not in place of carrying your own Bible, but in place of those people like me. If I wasn't the preacher, I might forget to bring this every now and then. Would you stand in the honor of reading God's Word? Deuteronomy chapter 31. Verses 7 and 8. We stand in the honor just recognizing this is God's word to us. This is God's written word to us today. Then Moses called to Joshua, and he said to him in the sight of all Israel, "Be strong and courageous, for you shall go with this people into the land, which the Lord has sworn to their fathers to give them, and you shall give it to them as an inheritance. The Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Joshua, do not fear or be dismayed." Father, I'm going to ask you to take your living word and in the very hands and power of your Spirit, would you embed it into our lives to not only inform us but to transform us. God, we don't want to just know more today. We want to be different. We want to be compelled to live differently, to follow harder after Jesus, to have a greater, deeper, more sincere faith. Speak to us today. We ask you to do it in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you. He gives Joshua, well, to call it a pep talk would be to undervalue it. It is a heart-to-heart. It is a face-to-face dialogue of how monumental this moment is. And the reality is that Joshua is about to lead an untrained, relatively small amount of men into a land that's well fortified, well defended with giants. And if that isn't enough, the last time they got there, they blew it. People backed out. But Joshua is an uncommon man. He has incredible faith. He has a huge heart for trusting God, but we can't forget that Joshua really is, he's only human. He really is the same nature as you and I have. And there had to be a huge temptation to give in to this unavoidable sense of fear. As you look ahead and say, now, if God didn't come through, it isn't going to happen. If God does not come through, this will not happen. The unknown of it all would be enough to stifle most of us with fear, but to have unknown and then what you did know was very, very intimidating, that would be almost insurmountable. So Moses looks at Joshua, his predecessor. He is figuratively handing off the baton of leadership to this young man and saying, Joshua, you're going in. Joshua, you are going to give these people this land. It's a certain deal. It's going to happen. There's no wavering. There's no conjecture. There's no uncertainty in Moses' admonition to Joshua. And it's because Moses was clear on God's promise. Moses knew what God wanted to do and what God would do. And so he tells him these things, and then he says there are 3 reasons. He doesn't give him 3 reasons. He just says, here's why. In verse 8, there are 3 reasons that Moses has come up with. There's no doubt that these were things that Moses experienced as Moses followed God, as Moses led Israel. Now he says, I need you, Joshua, on the brink of this incredible day and this incredible movement, this incredible impending victory. I need you to know that God is 3 things. There's 3 things you have to embed into your heart. And if you know me very well, you know I don't do a 3 points in a sermon. This is not a 3 points sermon. These are 3 attributes of God that when they're taken together, abolish our inability to move past fear. And that's what I want us to see. I don't want us to look at it as 3 points. I don't want you to get to the second point and say, well, he's almost to the third point, so he's almost done. I want you to see the whole of the character of God and how when you weave these things together, these truths that Moses himself hands to us and certainly handed to Joshua, that they literally empower us to move beyond our fear. They don't necessarily abolish fear, but they do help us move beyond it. And the first thing he said to Joshua is, Joshua, God is going ahead of you. Joshua, I want you to know that you're not going somewhere where God is not already working. Moses says, rest assured, the Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. So Joshua is sitting there thinking, there's enemies, there's walls, there's giants, there's armies. And Moses said, but don't forget there's God. Moses says, Joshua, I know what's there. I know what the spies saw. And I need you to know that in the midst of all that opposition is God. He is already there. The omnipresent God of the universe is already there. So God, Joshua, God is not sending you ahead of Him. Joshua, God is not sending you ahead of Him. God is calling you to join Him where He already is. So don't worry, Joshua. He's already there. The unknown is already been embraced by the omnipotent, omniscient God. So you need to know that, Joshua. Number one, I've never led. He said, I've never led where God has not already been. Second thing I need you to know, Joshua, is that God is going with you. Only an omnipresent God could do this. Could He already be where you're going, but actually go with you? He says to Joshua, He will be with you. He's not in the back lines saying, Joshua, I need you to go take the land. I'll be here. He said, Joshua, I'm already there, and as you take the land, I'm going with you. I'm going to be with you moment by moment, step for step. So every step you take will be taken stride for stride with God. Joshua, you need to know that. You're never going to be a battle where you're alone. There's never going to be a city that you walk up to when the presence of God is not with you and the presence of God has not gone ahead of you. He is not calling you to find your way in the darkness to where He is. He is leading you through the darkness to where He already is. Leading you through to where He already is. I know, it's mind-boggling. Right? How do you comprehend a God who's ahead of you but with you? But He says, Joshua, the only way you're going to embrace this, the only way you're going to move ahead is you got to know this. Joshua, look me in the eyes, Moses is saying, and you got to know that God's ahead of you. He's already working. He's already preparing. He's already advanced the mission. And now He's going to go with you step for step. But Joshua, you need to know that God is not going to let you down when you get there. You know, as much as we would like to think that Joshua never doubted God's ability, that he never questioned God's power, there's no doubt that he was just like you, just like me. If we were faced with the magnitude of this kind of situation, that we would wonder, is God really, truly going to come through? Is God honestly going to come through? And Moses says, God's not going to let you down. Joshua, you need to know that He will not fail you or forsake you. He's going to go ahead of you, and He's going to go with you. And if we stop there, we can say, great, I'm glad God's ahead of me and God's with me. But what if He blows it? What if not even God can conquer this land? What if God backs out? What if God fails? We would never say that out loud in a church setting like this, would we? Or a Sunday school class. You would never ask your deacons or elder or pastor, well, what if God blows it? Well, what if God fails? What if God doesn't come through? But something in our human nature echoes with that question. And if we don't embrace it and deal with it, then we just kind of limp along in isolation thinking that you're the only one that thinks that. But Joshua needed to know that, or Moses wouldn't have told him. He says, Joshua, you need to know God's ahead of you, God's with you, and God is not going to fail you. God's not going to get into Canaan and go, oh my gosh, there are giants here. Nothing I can do about that one, Joshua. You're on your own. I'm out of here. If you want to come, I would suggest following you. God is not going to do that. God is not going to get into the land and say, I didn't prepare for this one. I didn't know that there were cities this big. I didn't know that there were armies that large. I didn't know the walls were that tall. I didn't know that they had giants. Joshua, God is not going to fail you. God never leads you into a situation and then blows it. He always succeeds. He always wins. Listen, you could say, hey, He blew it the first time. They got right up to the land and then they blew. No. God did not blow it. God didn't get handcuffed. God didn't say, well, plan B, guess we're not going into the promised land. God says, we're still taking the promised land. You're just not going. You can wander around in the desert until you die. And by the way, they wandered around in the desert and didn't die because Moses interceded for them and said, God, don't kill them. Then everybody's going to say, look, God killed His own people. God said, okay, I'm not going to kill them. You can wander around until you die because you're not going in. And they did. A new generation, new day. Joshua and Caleb standing there. And God says, no. Moses says, no, He's ahead of you. He's with you. And He won't fail you. Man, you can apply that across the spectrum of your life. I mean, there's not a situation that you can't take that into. And I want to reiterate that those truths do not abolish fear. Fear is inherent to a fallen state, a sinful nature. It's always going to be a part of. what we're dealing with is our ability to move beyond fear. It has been said that courage is not the absence of fear, it's moving ahead in spite of fear, and that is very, very true. Faith is the same definition. So let's look at what this means for us. You see, we're not on the brink of God's not asking us to take over Manhattan or Lawrence or Nebraska, and certainly not Oklahoma. He's forsaken Oklahoma already. So He's not asking us to do that. But what was a physical reality for Israel is a spiritual reality for us. There is territory, spiritual territory to be taken, and that territory physically looks like people. Their lives at stake. The kingdom of God advances on the kingdom of darkness through lives being brought into fellowship with God. And we are at the dawning of a new day. I may have never said something like this, but I believe this, and this has been years in the realization in my life. This has been marinating and stewing in my heart. But I believe today that there is a new day dawning in the church. Not just this one, and not just in Topeka, but I certainly believe in Topeka, and I believe it's the reason I'm in Topeka. But I believe nationally and locally that God is doing something much larger than many of us suspect. And I believe that God is bringing a vibrancy and a vitality and a significance back to the church. And I don't know that it's going to have to do with numbers as much as impact. But I believe in the next decade that the church will have a far greater significance and presence in the city of Topeka and in the nation. I believe that God is raising up a church that will be essential to the community, that will be so vibrant and so powerful that it will affect everything from divorce rates to addictions to violence to crime to everything, that the church would have that kind of significance. And you say, well, is this just some mysterious movement of the Spirit where people are just mystically changed? No, what it looks like is one believing disciple stepping across the yard into the next person's life and building a relationship, sharing the gospel, and transformation taking place. Because the neighbor that is on the brink of divorce, the coworker that is addicted to porn, the person who has a violent tendency is somebody that we're supposed to step into their life and be Jesus to them. And when Jesus invades that person, He changes that life. You see, it won't be a political movement. It's not going to be a legislative movement. This is not about Republicans or Democrats or Tea Party or any politician you ever elect. This will be about you and me and countless millions of other Christ followers getting to know neighbors and investing our lives in them and loving them as simply as this, like we love ourselves. When we do that, the Bible says we don't have to fear or be dismayed. That's what He said to Joshua. You don't fear and don't be dismayed. See, what is going to change this city will be disciples who have been awakened to the urgent need to live out the Great Commandment, not just know it, but to live it out, to do it, to actually take the simple truth, to love your neighbor as yourself, to love God with all you've got, and to love your neighbor like you love yourself, and to remove those roadblocks of time and fear, and to step across the yard into your neighbor's life and be Jesus to them. Just be Jesus and speak Jesus to them. That's what's going to change the city. That's going to change your neighbor. That's what's going to change the world. And that was Jesus' original design. That was His strategic initiative. And for some reason, we've overlooked it. You see, fear paralyzes obedience to God. I have a self-proclaimed fear of failure. I hate to fail. No one does. I know no one's saying, hey, I really enjoy failure. No one does. I get that. But some of us have been paralyzed by it, because to the point where I wouldn't try anything if I thought there was a significant or even a slight chance of failure. I just wouldn't do it. So guess what? How many things did I fail at because I never tried them? And fear just stopped me before I ever started. So the only thing I have to fear is what? Fear itself. It's the only thing that can stop the movement of God in your life to be the person that God has called you to be to the people that live in close proximity to you. Is fear. That's fear, literally. You may be afraid of dealing with your time issue. That may be the biggest thing, is I am afraid of dealing with that. I'm not sure I can tackle it. So you don't ever try it. You don't ever try it. Fear paralyzes. And if you're left unchecked and you don't do anything about it, Fear is going to keep us tucked safely in our living rooms and in this worship center. And we're never going to risk rejection. We're never going to resist or risk awkward conversations. And we're never going to embrace messy relationships. And I can promise you, all three of those things are a reality. Someone's just blowing smoke up your chimney if they say, hey, if you just go love your neighbor, it's going to be all roses. Man, they're going to love you. They're going to bake you a pie and bring it over. The reality is they may slam the door in your face. The reality is you may step into somebody's life that you don't have any idea of how to deal with their problems. They may ask you spiritual questions you don't have a clue how to answer. They may out-argue you. They may be rude. I don't know. That's not the promise, nor is that a condition. The reality is that there are giants in the land. The reality is that there is opposition. But we can be sure that God's already at work, God's already there, and He's going with you. So we say these three things to us. And think of it in context of your neighbor. Jesus is already there. You don't have to wonder what's over there. It's a scary place. I've never been in their house. I don't know what's like. What do they do in there? We never see anything but their garage door go up and come down, and then the paper mysteriously disappears off their porch, and we just never see these people. And maybe people disappear when they go in there. But you can know Jesus is already there. If you go knock on that door, guess who's on the other side? Jesus. He's already at work in their life. He's already doing stuff. He's already preparing the way. And then the second thing you need to know is that Jesus is already with you. He's not saying, hey, come on over. I'm already here. You don't have to walk across the yard without Him. He's going to say, take me. I'm going with you. Let's go. Let's knock on the door. And guess what? Only this, I'm blown away by this. He's kind of freaking me out by this. Like, I'm going to stand on the porch with you, but I'm on the other side of the door too. Isn't that cool? Yeah, it just hurts to think about. I'm really glad that you're there and here. I need both. I need both. And then guess what? He won't fail you. Oh, you don't know how awkward I can be in social situations. You do not know how many times I have inserted my foot into my mouth and then gotten the other one in there at the very same time in the same conversation. Yeah, God does. And guess what? You and I may be thinking, I'm going to get over there and blow it. I'm going to say something so incredibly inept, so profoundly unintelligent, something so awkward or offensive that Jesus is going to go, oh my gosh, starting over, can't work with that one, see ya, and just leave you on the front porch to go, what do I do now? And we have that fear. But what did Moses tell Joshua? If you go, I'll win. I'm not going to back out. I can use every awkward, clumsy phrase. I can use everything you do for good. If you will go into the land, if you will go next door, you can't fail. I'm going there ahead of you. I'm going with you. I will not fail you or forsake you. Now listen, if this is 3 points and we just get this intellectually, this doesn't make any difference. But check this out. If this is literal truth, if you dare to believe that this is literal, factual truth, that Jesus is ahead of you, that He is with you and He won't fail, then man, we should rise up today and say, we have no reason not to risk everything for the kingdom because we cannot fail. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I'm not patting this on the heinies and saying, oh, it'll be okay. It's not hard. It's easy. It's going to be messy. It's going to be hard. It's going to cost you stuff. But you and I cannot fail if Jesus is ahead of us, if Jesus is with us, and He doesn't blow it. He won't back out on you. You can't out-mess up His redemptive power. You just can't. And if you think you're that powerful, you need to go see somebody, okay? Because you're having a moment of narcissism that is unparalleled. You cannot mess up God. Well, the spies did. No, they didn't. What did they mess up? Their opportunity to see what God was going to do from the beginning. That's all they did. They said, we messed up, we missed out. So guess what? God's going to do something in your neighbor's life. The question is, do you want to wander around in the desert of your living room while somebody else does it, or do you want to march through the doors? And do you want to be a part of it? Do you want to see God do it? Here's our challenge. I want to ask you to start praying for 2 neighbors by name. And if you say, well, I don't know 2 names, then there's step 1, all right? Don't pray that God would mysteriously show you their names. God, please, by some kind of spiritual osmosis, show me their names because I don't want to go next door and introduce myself. I've lived here for 12 years and I still don't know their names. Hey, that's a great way. You can break the awkwardness, just knock on the door and say, you know what? We've lived next to each other for a decade. I don't know your name. And you're going to both laugh because they're going to go, I don't know your name either. And you're going to be offended, right? You don't know my name, right? It's like, okay, I'm over here because I don't know your name. Get to know their names, and then I want you to start praying for them. 2 things is what you can pray for however you want, but I really want to challenge you to do 2 things. I want you to pray that the Father God would give you a genuine concern for these people. We've failed. We will fail massively if you go next door because I'm urging you to. Okay? Guess what they're going to know if you're on a mission from the pastor? Because people get it when they're not really cared about. So I'm going to ask you to pray that God would invade your heart with a burden and a concern for these people that live next to you. Guess what? A lot of you are going to meet Christians, okay? That's a fact, and that's okay. Just be ready for that. Don't go, oh, you're a Christian? What am I supposed to do? Now I have to go 2 doors down. Don't freak out. Just concern yourself for them. By the way, you're supposed to love Christians that don't go to your church, aren't you? The answer is yes. Let's all say yes. You're scaring me. No, we don't love you if you don't go to Covenant. Well, you don't love like 98.9% of Topeka, then we can't do that. All right, ask the Father to prepare the way and to create the opportunity. Pray that you would get concern for them, that God would give you that concern, and that God would prepare the way and create the opportunity for you to connect. Now, like I said, and in writing and in sermons, we're going to equip you on how to connect. We will. All right? And I need you to pray because there's a lot of planning that still has to be done here. It's not like I don't have this plan all written out yet because God has not given it fully to me. So pray for that. But we're not going to send you out and just say, go be a good neighbor and then say, figure it out. We're going to give you resources. So I volunteered Nate in the first service, and I'm going to volunteer him again this service, myself as well. If you need discussion, if you want to talk to somebody, how do I deal with this time issue? How do I deal with this fear issue? What are some things I need to do? Then I want to just avail us to you. And if you want to have a phone conversation or even just email, or if you want to set up a time, we'll come over and visit with you and help equip you. We're going to do more of that corporately, but listen, if you're serious and you want to start now and you want to have those conversations, let us know. Okay? Frankly, I don't know anybody in our church that's done this any better than Nate and Sean already. They have invaded their neighborhood with their presence. Everybody knows Nate and Sean, I think, in their neighborhood. I mean, kind of everybody in Topeka knows Nate and Sean, or mostly Nate. But yeah, when I say, hey, Nate works at our church, they're like, Nate Wood? Yeah. I saw him one time and I never forgot him. And we love him. We are. You know, it's a blessing. Honestly, I have a lot to learn from him in this regard. So I'm thankful. God's partnered us. Hey, guys, listen, the mission all starts with you walking in fellowship with God. So our challenge today, as we close this up, is twofold. I want you to take the life challenge seriously, but I want you to also say, am I in right relationship with God? The great commandment is to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. They're a unit. But you got to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Have you ever entered into that relationship? Have you ever been what Jesus described as being born again, a second time, a spiritual birth? And if you have, if you said, yes, I have been born again, but I have never told anybody, I've never made that a public declaration, I want to ask you to do that today. I want to ask you to have the courage to stand up during this response time and come down to the front and tell me, Pastor, I have decided to give my life to Christ. I've already done it. I'm born again. I've just never shared it. If you've done that and you want to share that, do that today. If you've never done that and you want to talk about it and you want to begin a discussion with somebody who's going to be honest and somebody's just going to meet you where you are, we're not going to kind of convert you or indoctrinate you or trick you into some kind of membership thing. If you just want somebody to look you in the eye and care about you and listen, be honest enough to say, I don't know, but I'll find out, then let me know. Write it on the worship tear-off. Say, I want to have that conversation with somebody, because that's why we're here, okay? Let's pray, and we're going to have a response time. Father, you are an awesome God. Only you could give us this monumental mission of making disciples of all the world and give us this incredibly practical, tangible, and profoundly simple method of loving our neighbors like we love ourselves. God, don't let us overlook it anymore. Help us to remove these barriers of time and fear. Do this for us as we seek to be obedient to you. God, I want to say thank you for Joshua and Caleb. I want to thank you for these men who are our forerunners, who have shouted into our lives today. From these eternal pages of your word, they have declared truth in Moses. Truth that doesn't just inform us, but changes and transforms us. Thank you, Father. Do this in Jesus' great name. Amen. Thank you. Let's stand and respond as God leads you to, okay?
Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassion, they fail not. As thou hast been, thou forever will be. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto thee.
All I've needed, His hand has provided. Why? Because He's already there. He's with you. And He'll never, He cannot fail. Thank you, church. You can be seated. We're going to ask you to give with the greatest generosity and even sacrificially. Man, to give up a lunch, downgrade your cable. I don't know. Do what you got to do to be able to give to the mission that God's got us on, because there's not one that's more important. And we unashamedly call you to that greatness, that great level of giving. Okay? We're here to make disciples. Disciples are people who are following Jesus in a growing relationship, and we're going to do that by being the greatest neighbors that God could possibly allow us to be. Roger, would you pray for our offering today?
Wow, what a crowd. Good to see all of y'all. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, as we come to you now just to give our offerings and tithes, Father, help us to do it cheerfully. And Father, as those funds come in, that our church would use them to increase your kingdom and to reach out for one more person. Lord, we thank you for this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Be strong and take courage. Do not fear or be dismayed. For the Lord will go before you, and His light will show the way. So be strong and take courage. Do not fear or be dismayed. For the Lord who gives within will be strong in you today. Why don't you give Him all of your fears? Why don't you let Him dry all of your tears? He knows, He's been through pain before, and He knows be strong and take courage. Do not fear or be dismayed, for the one who lives within you will be strong in you today. Nothing can take you out of his hand. Nothing can face you that you can't command. I know you'll always, you will be in his love, in his power, you will be free. So be strong and take courage. Do not fear or be dismayed, for the one who lives within you will be strong in you today. For the one who lives within you will be strong in you today.
That was harder the second time. Renita, we heard your message in that song, and we're so appreciative of you. And I hate that this is the last day that you get to be here in this position, but we know that you believe every word that you just sang, and that's inspiring to us. So thank you. Thank you. Appreciate you. And anybody that can make Wally cry publicly, I like. Yeah, got your back, man. That's right. This is Renita's last day in this position. We're not parting company. We're sending her and Simone out to be missionaries to their family and to the city of Denver, and we know God has great plans for them. So we need you to just hang around, and we're going to celebrate that today. We're going to thank you for my cue card, Carson. Awesome. I need you to do that more often. You could do that for my sermons. That would really be helpful. So we are going to do that today. So immediately, as soon as we're closed, we need you to move. Right, Nate? We need to move chairs and set up tables, I believe. So if you got 30 people, we're down to this. You got 30 people, it takes 10 minutes maybe to do that. So let's do a massive effort of rearranging this, and then we're going to have potluck, great food coming. Stay and just hang out and let them know that you love them. We are going to have a time where you just get to share something significant, and we're going to have to be brief because there's a lot of us. So I know a lot of you have a lot of stories, so especially about Simone. And there are lots of stories about Simone to tell, and we will share them, many of them publicly. So be here. Please stay and do that. The last thing is we have a special called business meeting on April 10th to approve our budget this year at 3 p.m. We're talking, it should be a 15-minute meeting, all right? It's March 10th. Yes, it says April, but that would be I'm just reading the cue card. All right, it's March 10th. We better correct that for the first service folks, because I know I read that April. March 10th, you grab a copy of the budget on your way out or as you're here today, okay? God bless you. Let's transform this place and hang out. God bless you.